has missed the main event. One of the
Whoa.
hot stories of this entire season, Jens, was this open qualifier and the adjustments they made. And we've seen it happen to a few of the teams that are kind of in the middle. But Karmine Corp is at the top of the top of the ladder, and they're not in this next main event. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, it's all the chaos that could have come from this format and more.
Yeah.
It is insane, but it happened. It's somehow. I woke up this morning because we're recording this on Monday, and now I was like, did it really happen? Yeah, it really did.
Man, so I streamed today, and of course, that's like the big piece of my title because I'm trying to get as many eyes as possible. And I can't tell you how many people came in and were like, "You're trolling. You're trolling." I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
no, it really
yeah.
happened." They lost to Suh in the upper half. Suh is just, and this is a kind of a
Again,
new, this is a new team composition for Suh. They had
yes.
Toe leave, Rizx in, but Suh just seems to be the kryptonite for Karmine Corp.
It's the second time they lose in the upper bracket in the double elimination against.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they fall to lowers, and then they run into top Cougars. And, I mean, people have said all kinds of things about the format, but if you look through those qualifying matches at the bottom, like top Cougars is a very unfortunate draw for Karmine Corp. Now, of course, they need to win. They should have beaten Suh. I know that. I'm not making excuses, but I'm saying this is another one of these issues with this format because and it's the same for top Cougars. If you plug top Cougars in, they obviously won this. But you take either one of those two teams and plug them into like 4 or 5 of the other qualifying matches, and they're having the prize sweep. They have no problems. So this double elim format, it just yields some volatility. I
yeah,
think that there are some better ways to approach the qualification process. I really like what we had last year with Swiss. I think Swiss is something where like your place in the bracket, which is essentially just your seed, doesn't have too much of an impact on things, right? Like obviously it's going to determine that round one
yeah,
match, but after that, it's almost
yeah.
all performance based. And so,
Absolutely.
Swiss is I think very, very good at eliminating half of the competition. And we saw, I know Growly was tweeting about it. Dying was tweeting about it. I saw Wavy over in NA tweeting about it, or quote tweeting them. They took a screenshot of like last year's day 3 close quals, and they were just
Yeah, yeah.
showing the talent that was in it, right? Like these qualifiers just are going to yield volatility. And
Yeah.
I want to say this too, because it's going to feel hypocritical, but I don't think it is. I'm excited for a lot of these players getting their first opportunity main event,
Yeah,
and
of course. I mean, it's always good to see those players come
yeah,
in and do the best they can. It's just that it shouldn't come at the deficit, or it shouldn't really
well,
stop the top teams from being top teams. You know?
absolutely. And I think that my second point here was the reality is if you look at the quality, the consistency of those top 16s,
Yeah,
it's not as quality as it was last season. You were getting a much higher level from top to bottom, top 16 main event throughout last season versus what we've had this season, because you're just almost guaranteed to get some upset,
yeah,
some misplay
yeah.
somewhere, a poor seeding, some new team that's playing for fun. I mean, look, we got Squishy, Alpha Cap, and Kofer playing in the next qual. They're going to play spoiler for somebody. I can feel it. That's a
They
good team,
might.
right? And
But you
so, yeah,
thought that
just crazy stuff.
You thought Sub would be the upset for
Right,
Karmine Corp. I mean,
right.
Karmine Corp certainly thought they would be the upset, and that's it.
Yep,
The lower brackets, unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world, and it isn't. That's what the
right.
lower bracket is
That's right.
for. And then top Cougars, it was very
Oof.
close. I mean, Karmine Corp was in the lead at some point, 2-1.
Yeah,
And they played well. They played
yeah,
together. Karmine Corp honestly looked a little boomed. They were not in it. You could see it. Vatera had to do everything. Atto and Rise, exceptional players, but they weren't on the day.
right.
And it happens. It happens to everyone.
Sure.
At that point, Vatera is trying to do everything. He's trying to play offense, trying to play defense, trying to be everywhere at once. And a player like Vatera can do that to a certain extent, can be someone who can carry a little bit,
Right.
but you're also if that becomes how you're playing the series, you're making sure that it's very hard for the other two
That's
players
right.
to actually get back into it as well, because now they're out of position all the time. They're not in the positions where you need them to be. Their rotation is kind of in a rut, and you get really unfortunate goals going in.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you need to score more yourself. You need to score more yourself. I mean,
And you're,
Simas completely fakes out for Tira to
yeah,
get back into the game.
yeah.
That's brutal, as they
Mm-hmm.
still managed to actually win that particular game. KC did.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, again, it's not the end of the world. You lose the game, you get back into it. But it had to come down to game 5. I mean, Akra bump on Vatera.
Yeah. And it
It's
was chaos too in
painful.
game 5, because in the last 60 seconds, KC went up.
Yes, 1-0.
And
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, I was sitting there watching it, and I'm just kind of goofing around, and I said, last 60 seconds, RW masterclass. Relating wave just seems to pop up in these like random weird moments, whether it's a qualifier or like
Yeah.
like a tiebreaker for a major or something. He just goes crazy at these like just unexpected moments. And like I said, I was just being silly, and sure enough,
Yeah.
it comes up big with the final goal there. So
Clutch factor was there for
clutch
sure.
factor, man. But you're talking about that dynamic with Karmine Corp having an off day and whatever else, and then you throw on the immense pressure. They know,
Hmm.
this qualifier is huge, and the thing is, like, it is huge for points and it is huge for RLCS. But I think these players feel immense pressure socially, because they know they are going to be ridiculed, especially when you're Karmine Corp and you've had a ton of success, and everybody, maybe not everybody, but huge swaths of people want to see you fail. So that's in the back of their mind the whole time. And obviously, that's just part of competing. These are not excuses, but these are things that lead to that poor performance. These are reasons why this happens. And, there's all kinds of discourse, and I feel like we're just kind of repeating and regurgitating the same things over and over. But this is what we're going to get. We said it before the season started, and then it happened to Rebellion, and then it happened to Resolve, and then it happened to Moist, and then it happened to Dig, and then it happened to Karmine Corp. No one is safe. These qualifiers are brutal, and the rebuttal of just win, it's not fully incorrect, right? Those teams, you do have to win. You have to beat who's in front of you. But a format that promotes or just introduces more volatility than we already had volatility. This is an open circuit. You're not guaranteed anything, right?
And
Everybody
no
thinks
single Rocket League series is guaranteed a win anyway.
that's right. And so everybody that is kind of on this side of just win, format's fine, whatever. I don't think that they are zooming out and looking at the bigger picture here. These organizations are fielding teams, and they're paying out, a handsome amount of money to run these operations. And so I think it is reasonable and fair and valid to allow the teams to earn a spot in the main event through a consistent, good performance. Karmine Corp won all 3 regionals. You can't get more consistent than that. You can't. That is the win, that you win everything. Now, they went top 4 at Major, but that's nothing to be upset about. And so if a team like that can even fall short, everyone is at risk. Every single team that is competing is at risk of having an off day. And we'll talk about some points and what this means. But Karmine Corp is going to be, they were currently in the lead. I think it's 74 points. They got their one from, placing 17th to 32nd or whatever it was. So they're at 75 points. They're going to get hopped by Genomates this event. Depending on where Vitality lands, Vitality could hop them as well. BDS is obviously going to be gaining ground, and so is Oxygen and Luna Galaxy and Resolve and everyone else.
Yeah.
And so the big problem is they're not going to make Major. And, it's mathematically possible, but it's extremely unlikely. And so the problem is they're going to be sitting at home while all the teams are at Major gathering huge points, because that Major 2 is enormous amounts of points.
Yeah.
And
so I want to know how Blast feel about this.
Yeah.
And Epic, because they, with the format, let a team like Karmine Corp miss the Major, miss out on a lot of fans in the arena as well as online.
Yep.
I can't imagine they're very happy about the situation. And this might be, I mean, John AKO said it as well. This might be actually a catalyst to
Hmm.
the actual format change that might be coming maybe next year or something, right? Because
Right.
we as Rocket League fans have seen better formats in the past. So it's not like we don't know any better.
Yep.
We can make changes that are better for the esports in general, while still having the teams actually, earn their spot.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
What the thing is
I
too, it's
think
not.
they really want KC to be there next year,
Of course. Of course.
at every
It's
major.
it's it's not even huge changes. It's just tweaks.
Mhm.
Because once we get to main event, like it is what it is. You got your source
Yeah,
stage, you got your top 8 single elim,
it's exciting.
and
Rocket League.
the open qualifier system. I think all players at this point know how important it is to leave that barrier of entry open. Right? You don't want to build a wall in a league play system where 6 months go by and then you can try again to make it into the league. You don't want to do that. It stifles growth. So the open circuit is good, but maybe striking a balance where you have that, just like last season, we had the top 8 in total season points qualify straight into main event. And then maybe you do something where that 9 through 16, maybe they skip day 1, right? Maybe they don't go all the way to day 3, but maybe they skip day 1, so they're still in that
Yeah,
big open qualifier, but they can kind of get through the. I mean, listen, day 1 is kind of silly, anyways. I'm doing the broadcast for Oxygen, and it's really, I don't want to be rude, but it's a waste of time for both us and the opponents. It's silly. Early in the season, y'all Shift tweeted out the Furia score where they scored freaking 40 points in a single Rocket League game. I mean, it's
20
just.
goals. Yeah.
It's just it was, in my opinion, such a silly change and a very obvious step backwards that really it didn't save them any money. It did. I just didn't understand why. I didn't understand why we had to do that. But
Yeah.
either way, we see the results. We see what this kind of format yields and the dangers of it. But we'll be fair to it. The upsides of it as well. As I said earlier, it does provide, with that volatility, even more, chances for some, maybe not fully developed talent to kind of get in there. I'll quote. I'm not going to say who, but one of the players that I'm cheering for and excited to see them making it. They were tweeting out, and every single, it was so, like, it made me so happy. But every single response, somebody telling congratulations, whatever else, it's all caps, and he kept saying, "I'm shaking, I'm shaking, like I can't believe it." And that is
Yeah.
like, I'm excited for that. I want them to get that experience, and it will be valuable experience. That's something
And
that
you
I think
have
a lot
that
of
with
those.
any open format. You don't
Yeah,
need Karmine Corp to lose to have that happen. But you're
sure,
right. The narratives, the storylines, they're
right.
all there. They're all great. Yeah. Whether it has to come to KC to lose before we see that, I don't think that's necessary. You don't either. We just need to tweak it, like you said. You don't need massive changes, and then we're all good.
Yeah.
We're all fine and dandy.
But that's not the only big news over in Europe. As I said, we've got a few new teams this RLCS season, a few first-time players qualifying, and one of them is Elims, first
Yes.
woman to qualify for a European RLCS event, and the first woman to qualify for an RLCS event in the world.
Yeah. Outside of
Re,
NA.
that's yeah. Um, since RLCS X, so it's been
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
2 years, 3 years, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. So the first woman to qualify for RLCS outside of NA since that time, or the first woman in the world in general, like outside of NA, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. I mean, congratulations to her. The entire team, stepped up, but
Mhm.
she definitely did. Seen her play already a little bit in the last couple of months. And yeah, I mean, she's up there now.
Yeah.
It's really special.
It is very special. It's super exciting too, and I know it's going to inspire a lot of people to continue on
Hopefully,
their journey.
hopefully.
If you're curious about where to check out some gameplay, I can tell you that Fear actually just recently uploaded a video spotlighting some of her gameplay against some high-level players over in Europe. So you can check that out. I actually think one of the matches was against the Twins, TRK and Killers. So that's some good content you can check out
Yeah.
if you want to see her gameplay. But that'll be exciting. Tune in this upcoming week. You can obviously watch her and her squad. La Masia is the team name. They'll be playing in the main event this coming Friday.
Yes, Smashy and Matt. I mean, they're definitely a team that are only here because of the format,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
being so open.
Hmm.
That's nothing against them.
They
They're
know
just
that.
the kind of players
Yep.
that wouldn't be in a top 16 if it was more shielded off from outside influences,
Right.
as we might as well call the bubble scene here. It's a great experience for them, I hope, as well, coming into things. And they're joining all the teams. Oh, what's their first matchup? It's not announced yet,
Yeah.
as
Not
of
announced.
recording. But I mean, you're probably gonna have, because they made it through lowers. Probably
Yeah.
gonna have one of the teams,
Oh, they're gonna get one of the
um,
top 4.
maybe like Oxygen,
Yeah.
Luna Galaxy.
Yep.
Actually, it could be Sir. That's
Yeah, I
pretty
guess that's
funny,
true.
but it could be. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see. We've had Karma being very
Yep.
successful. We
Yep.
had Talibird was the last woman to
Mhm.
feature in the RLCS match over in NA. She's busier with Deep Dip 2 in Trackmania at the moment. She's doing really well. Her personal best is already at like 7 or 8. People who don't follow Trackmania have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's the streaming event of the month.
Oh, wow.
Um,
I didn't know that.
it's basically getting over there, getting over it with Benny Follett. You know that game?
Oh, I do. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
then with cars in Trackmania, it's
Oh,
brutal.
interesting.
It's
Okay.
it's so hard. But
Yeah.
it's so amazing to me how some people are just
I know.
gamers
Dude,
and
yes.
are just
Yes.
gods
They just
at
go to different
everything they
games and they're at the
touch.
top immediately. I don't understand.
Yeah, but Tallybird's definitely one of them. I don't know
Wow.
about LMs. Maybe she's also a goat at Valorant. I don't know.
Who knows?
Um,
But
but
I want to
at
say
least in Rocket League,
her team with LaMasia is not the only team that's got or not the only team that is kind of a first appearance or new appearance for certain players. You got Low Block with Goffs, Davoof, and Grema. Goff's former auction sub played a big role in their qualification to Gamers 8 last season. Daystar with Icon, Matt's Gray, and Nico. And Matt's Gray has qualified for an event, I think, early to RLCS X or maybe 21,
yeah,
22.
I would say RCS. Oof.
He has it's one of those two, because the next team that I was going to mention is Valiant,
Yeah,
which is Mozzarella, Gyuk, and Econ is the other. So one is in
Matt's
RCS
Gray
X.
was full split of RCS X already
Gotcha.
with Minx. I remember that team.
Okay, and then Econ,
Yeah.
another player that's been around for a long time. I think his last was maybe fall 21, 22, or maybe winter.
Oof. What team was that?
Mm, I don't know.
Maybe Ghost Noobs or something? Isn't that what he played for?
Oh yeah, that does sound right. Actually, yeah.
Or Tryhard? Trainhard? What is it? No, he did play with Ghost Noobs, but he qualified with mostly with Trainhard.
Yeah.
But the first one with VANC Vank Gaming, which was also full split of RLCSX.
Oh, okay. RCSX. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. It's been a while for a couple of these players, but they're making their way back in. They've got some, younger or newer talent alongside them. And as we said at the beginning, there are definitely, some first timers here. It's going to be, it's going to be a fun event. I mean,
some very very first timers even, because on Low Block you have Grama and on Daystar you have Nico, and both those players are newly added to the next up list for Shift. You can read about them on the article on shiftrl.gg /article/next up the newcomers, because they're 2 out of 11, I want to say. Yeah, 11 new players to join the list, because we've had some graduates, leaving the list, and these players are replacing them. And Nico, I mean, on Daystar, I've been really impressed by them.
Yeah.
But Low Block, I mean, Grama has seemingly been carrying that team.
he's very talented. I have been fortunate enough to see some of these guys play in the 1v1 arena. And I was talking about it beforehand, and we'll get to it later in the show, but a lot of mechanical prowess. These players are very green. They don't have a ton of experience at the professional level. And I think the big thing that separates them is literally just repetitions, right? Like these players that are I look at this OG squad and why they don't seem to slip very often. It's because they have an immense amount of experience. JNAPS, Com, and Nolly have experienced some of the highest highs, right? So when they get into these intense situations, for them, it's just another game. They've already done far more intense pressure situations. Whereas these players that are having their first time qualifying for the main event, obviously this is going to be very intense. So I'm
Speaking about
excited.
JNAPs, we've
Yeah,
totally not mentioned that Michael isn't here today.
right. He's not.
Michael, of course, being a big fan of JNAPs.
Yep.
So JNAPs is replacing him, but
Shout out JNAPS.
he couldn't make it, so he'll be back next week, hopefully.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute. We're not gonna let Michael off easy.
No, the Gen G.
That's right. That's right.
We'll get there.
Well, Europe is going to be exciting. Like I said, make sure y'all tune in this upcoming weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As always, we got some new faces, and we're missing some of our mainstays. So we'll see what happens this next EU event. We have OCE as well, and after Pioneers push Power maybe to the limits, Power still come out on top. Is it just going to be the Power show? Does it continue? The train continue rolling, or do you think that there's a possibility that Pioneers, Chiefs, or Kig Gang can maybe pull off an upset?
I mean, there always is, isn't there? There always is, and still Torsos in his dominance with his pixelated shades on top of that car has been getting there every time. So
Yeah.
can you bet against them? Can you say,
Dude.
this time, it won't happen? No, of course not. Of course you can't. But things are, as volatile as ever across the world, because Gremlins, we all talked about them, have just completely missed out. They've fallen in the top 48.
Oh no.
So, I mean, they're out. They weren't the big contenders, but they were up there, and not anymore. It's easy as that. It's just, it goes so quickly sometimes.
Yeah.
It's one day performance, and we've talked about it before. Sometimes you're just not performing on the day.
Yeah.
You just has to click. You have to work on, everything that's going on. Maybe you're feeling a little bit under the weather, or the team is not really coming together. Whatever it is, you need to beat who's in front of you. There's no excuses, and then suddenly you're out. Gremlins had it happen to them. Of course, we have Kip Gang up there right now, which is a team that's very promising with the players on that team. But Power, I mean, they're still the big favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I was, you were asking earlier, can you bet against them? And I feel like I have been betting against them. I've been talking about the new look Chiefs, young talent with Super Lucky, and then they pull Super Lucky over to Pioneers. I'm like, oh, here they go. They've created the team that's going to do it, and they just never do it. So I'm done betting against Power. I'm done. They have won me over. It took almost a full season, but I'm on the Power train. But you know what that means?
You know what that means, yeah.
As soon as I dive across,
yeah.
Now this will be the event that they lose. But hey, they've earned it. If I have to be wrong again, then so be it. Power have performed so consistently at home, and then even at the major. I think I underestimated them as well.
I did as well. I definitely did.
They go to that round 5 and look stronger than some of the other teams that I thought would do better. So I'm backing Power into Open Qual 5, and of course moving forward as well.
And the points are so important. So I mean, Power winning Open Qualifier 4, that's 20 points, whereas winning the regional last split was only 16. So you're just getting there for, with Worlds in sight. This is so important for them, for the region. It's good to have a team like Power on top, even though, of course, you want to see more teams up there in a smaller region that Oceania is. It's really nice to see that Power can be so consistent that even when we're doubting them, even we're saying, ooh, maybe this improved Pioneers roster can do something more to beat them, they're still going to be there at the top, even though they're not, even if they wouldn't win next Open Qualifier, they're still going to be favorites within the region, and even outside of it, trying to show what they can do.
Right. Well, OCE, just like I said with Europe's on this weekend, y'all be sure to tune in and see what's going on there. We've got APAC as well this upcoming weekend. And APAC has turned out to be an entertaining, an
Ooh,
entertaining split too, where I think if you flash back to our episode a couple weeks ago, all three of us
yes.
all three of us said this is going to be the Tho show. He's going to walk in. He's the Karmine Corp Slayer with top 8 in EU. There's no chance that his team Gladiators with Vert and Max U will drop a series in APAC. And sure enough, I mean, they effectively got swept, right? The Elevate team had some tech issues and had to forfeit
Yeah,
2 games at the beginning of the series, but then they took 4 straight.
yeah.
So Elevate, on the trend of doubting teams, maybe we need to stop doubting some of these squads. Elevate with the addition of ZPS they've brought it.
Yeah, and then you've got a team like Lefish in there with Corrado on it. It's still going to be interesting at the very top.
Yeah.
But yeah, though the KC Slayer, what does that mean? Even after
Apparently not
this
very much.
weekend, not very much, maybe. No, I still think they can come back from it.
Yeah, I agree.
Getting swept is such a statement from Elevate that you would say, well, Elevate's got this. And in terms of points, it's so important that you kind of think like, ooh, our Gladiators just out of it. But no, we definitely shouldn't count them out.
Right.
You can come back against the team. Like, every game they got beaten, but they can change a little bit. They can change small things within their gameplay to counter how Elevate play, which is very aggressive, very on the ball. If you defend a little bit better against that and can get some better counters to that, then Gaming Gladiators, at least on paper, I know they're not playing on paper, but if they would be, they should be beating Elevate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also one of those things where, we have seen teams form, and sometimes it takes a long time for them to catch fire. Sometimes it's immediate with the honeymoon phase, and sometimes it never seems to happen. So we've got a situation here where Gladiators could have just taken a little bit of time to build that team chemistry on the field specifically and get to a point where they feel comfortable and confident. Whereas Elevate maybe was more as soon as they hit the ground, they're running, already feeling good. So
yeah, who knows? But what I said last week, I think everything's still set up for that to happen. Namely, that we'll see a repeat of last split where the first open qualifier of the split goes to one team, second one goes to the other, and it's decided in the finals, or at least close to grand finals of the third and last open qualifier of the split and of the season. So with anything can happen. Karmine Corp. But if we see anything, then the last regional would be more interesting in terms of who's actually going to that major, who's actually getting a shot at Worlds, than what we'll be seeing next weekend. But
APAC, as I said with the previous 2 on this upcoming weekend, be sure to tune in and see what goes on. I think you're right on. That's probably exactly what's going to happen. They'll probably trade, and then it comes down to event 3. There's always the possibility that Elevate take 2 straight, and then Gladiators are, they got their back against the wall. But either way, it'll be fun.
I think it's impossible for them. Yeah, it is impossible for them to even get there anymore. So then, I think that might even mean, that means that Elevate is just locked in for Worlds as well, isn't it?
Is it? I didn't know they were locked in.
Well,
Or I see what you're saying.
If they win
sure.
next weekend,
yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
then they're locked in for London, which means they're also locked in for Dallas.
Well, unless Elevate lose earlier in the tournament. Unlikely.
Yeah.
So if they get knocked out, like they get knocked out top 8.
Yeah.
Maybe they run into Gladiators top 8. We've seen it happen.
Oh yeah. If that happens, that's just pure entertainment, but pure clownery.
YMC APAC. Oh no.
Yeah.
All right.
In a region with 2 teams that are so neck and neck, You hopefully don't see a YMC happening in there, but
Yeah,
you never know.
you never know. Well, let's jump to our next segment before we get out of our regional preview mind space. We're going to do a segment called Spoiler Alert, where Jens and I are going to give you one of our selections for these new teams. We got LaMasia, Low Block, Daystar, or Valiant. One of those 4 squads, who do we believe could possibly mess up one of the, we'll say top 6 teams, one of their runs through Swiss or into the main or into the playoff bracket? Who do we think has the best chance at an upset?
I think you've mentioned the team before, haven't you, Eddie?
I sure have. Low Block. I love that team. I think they are so hungry. That's what I think. I think they are hungry
Right.
to win. Goffs is moved from a sub role in the past, which he was a high level player, had even had been used in a couple occasions, like I mentioned earlier on Oxygen's run to Gamers 8. He stepped in, and y'all know Gamers 8 as well. It's not just 3v3. There was actually a 2v2, and Oxygen chose to do Jorge's Goffs rather than Jorge's Archie. So Goffs is a big time player. He has shown up in big moments in that sub role, but he wanted to step out of the sub role into a main roster spot. And my time with Oxygen at the World Championship, I got to know him a little bit, and so I've stayed in touch here and there. And he's done some 1v1 show matches on the stream, and he is very determined to put in the work and give himself the best possible chance that he can to find success. And I feel the very same about Grandma. Grandma, I don't have that same rapport with him that I have with Goffs, built through, face-to-face interaction. But Grandma's another individual that is hungry, a strong desire to improve and grind. He is somebody that I am very, very impressed with in 1v1s. The mechanics
Yes,
are
great
just
1v1 player.
they're unreal. I mean, he's got all kinds of aerial mechanics. He has impeccable ground control, ground game. He's got, individual prowess is there. And I think Davoof is another player that probably, doesn't have the same name value. And maybe he does. I don't know. I guess it depends. All these guys are on their come up. So just depends on where you're paying attention. But Davoof is a player that has been bouncing around that bubble for at least a couple years as well. I know he's done some of the salt mine qualifiers and had some decent success, maybe never making main event, but he's put up a good fight. And so I'm excited to see that team put everything together. And they got a strong win over Solary to qualify. Solary with Astral, that's a solid squad. So I think they've got the chance to potentially upset one of those higher level teams.
And they've beaten Growly, Hips, and Brazy on George. Lovely team. George. But yeah, I mean, with Grandma on there, 18-year-old newcomer to the RLCS and great 1v1 player. But I also love that it's a new Italian in the scene, carrying the legacy of Cuxer 97. So yeah, I mean, Finnard, when he was writing the Next Up Newcomers article, was predicting the future when he said they might have crashed out of Open Qualifier 4 earlier than anticipated, but do not be surprised if Grandma heads towards another unlikely qualifying run in the final 2 events of the season. And he actually did it.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Seeing the future. I am going with Daystar, a new team, a new organization as well. They're signed to an org. Daystar coming in and qualifying. No, actually, I was mistaken. Daystar beat George, not Low Block.
Oh, okay.
That's I was already thinking about my team and my guy Nico carrying the legacy of Maestro and Ronicky and all the other Danish players. So it's great to see some new youngsters coming in there. Nico being one of them. Don't they have another one? No, it's just because there's a lot of experience on the team as well, right?
Yeah.
That's nice to see as well.
One thing worth mentioning is Daystar actually had to run the entire lower bracket gauntlet. They didn't even start at the top. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's a tough run. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 series on the day. And the final 2 actually went back to, the final 2 went to game 5. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they reverse swept in that qualifying match. So huge stuff.
I think it's also the first time for Icon from Scotland to
Yeah.
make the top 16. Yeah, it is. But then you have Mats Gray
Yeah.
with tons of experience. But yeah, two Danish guys. Lovely to see that kind of scene bloom a little bit again, because we've
Mhm.
not seen a lot of Danish representation in recent years. So Daystar is, I think, my pick for a team that could really screw over a top team if they get just a few games going their way, and
Yeah.
then a few lucky goals, and then a
Sure.
few unlucky moments, or a team like Karmine Corp. I know I keep going on about them, who are just not having their day.
Yeah. So keep your eyes on Low Block and Daystar. Those are our selections, but of course, watch out for LaMasia and Valiant as well. If you have another team that you want to predict, drop that in the comments below. Let us know who you think could play spoiler to one of those top teams. Up over to regional recaps. So we've looked forward at what's coming this next weekend. Let's look back at what happened last weekend, North America, because the chaos doesn't stop over in Europe. I mean,
No, it doesn't.
we just scratched the surface. North America typically is pretty status quo. You've got a few maybe upsets in that 6 to 12 range, but it seems like it's always Gen G G2 coming out on top, or maybe meeting in the semifinal and then one of them goes on to win the event. But this one
How
was
convenient then. How convenient that we have JNaps over here and not
JNaps.
Gen G fanboy, self-proclaimed,
Yes.
Michael DeGenero. What happened there? Oh, he got sick. He's down with COVID. A virus from 2019. Come on. Get with
He's
the
dodging.
times.
He's Q dodging.
Oh, he is.
He ran around last week yip-yapping about being Gen G top 3 in the world. Miles better than G2. They've got 4 straight wins over them. They played Genomates better than G2 did at the major. Yap. And then what happens? Gen G fall out in the quarterfinals. They lose to OG Esports in a 4-2 series. A strong showing from the boy JNaps, wherever he is. And, I mean, this has made the race. I do think Gen G will be fine. I'm sure that the Gen G and G2 will still be locks for London come Regional 3. But it's opened the door. You've got OG going top 4 and Cloud9. Cloud9, who did they end up beating? I can't remember.
Cloud9 beat M80.
M80 in the quarterfinal. That's right. Jeez.
Well, we'll get to
well,
that.
we'll get to
We'll get
M80
to
in a minute.
Yeah.
Cloud9 going top 4 alongside OG, and of course G2 is in there, and Space Station now for their second straight time. Space Station actually went on to the quarterfinals and looked very strong. Space Station almost trounced G2. In fact, probably should have. Kind of fell apart.
To the grand final, you mean? You said
the grand final, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good for a team like Space Station, but also for G2. They're very happy with Gen G going out this early. It just opens up a little bit more breathing room for them.
And G2 is the only team that is currently locked for Worlds. So even if they, for some reason, miss the major, which they're not going to do, they have already locked their spot at Worlds.
Yeah. Getting all those points, making the grand finals in Copenhagen has really helped them secure that.
Well, while Michael's gone, let's answer the question. Are G2 once again firmly the best NA have to offer?
You wanna say something about that?
I always thought yes. I do like that Gen G team, but I do think that G2 has a higher ceiling. I honestly, I don't think we've seen it yet. Obviously, they've played very well, and they've taken care of all the teams that they should at home. They looked just nervy from time to time at the major. I don't think that is the peak G2. And maybe we never see it. Maybe maybe they never bring their A game. I don't know. But that is an unbelievable amount of talent on one roster. I mean, arguably, I mean, three of the top 4 in the region, it's just so much talent there. And if they can work as a unit, cohesive, and all have kind of an A+ level day, I mean, I think they could go toe to toe with any team in the world. So
It has been said that both Gen G and G2 are built like super teams, but G2 is the one that actually always delivers as one.
right,
And not that Gen G was bad at the major
sure.
and they had difficult teams to beat, but G2 are just the team that actually, makes it happen within North America and outside of it. So I'm also, yeah, we we have an easy time now without Michael.
He's not even here to defend.
No, I mean, not on us.
he's
Hold.
gonna watch back the episode and just be punching air.
Mm.
So G2, they take the victory here in the second regional. As I said, we had Space Station finishing up top 2 as well, locking themselves into a great place for the London Major race. I think them and Gen G both are locked at 28 points right now in the second spot, so they should be good. I'm guessing that G2, Gen G, and Space Station are going to lock in 3 of those 4 spots, and that 4th spot, Yins, is incredibly exciting. You've got
Ooh, it
OG
really is.
and Cloud9, who I think at the moment are at 20 points. You've got,
I'm gonna trust you on that one.
I'll pull it up real quick so I don't lie, but I think they're at 20 points. I was looking at this today on the stream. So they're both at 20 points. You have Snowman at 18 points, M80
Yes.
Rebellion at 16 points.
I got it now.
And so
It's
any of those
way too
squads,
close to call. Yeah.
yeah, any of those squads can qualify. I want to highlight one specific scenario that maybe I'll just say I'm rooting for, I guess. If we have next event, Cloud9 and OG fall out top 8, they're going to get 8 more points and they're going to land at 28.
Mm.
You've got Snowman at
Oh.
18 points.
See where you're going.
If they go top 4, they're going to get 12, and that's going to put them at 30, and they will grab that 4th spot.
Yeah.
They will be at the London Major. Story's not over yet, though. If Snowmen go to the Major and they get to the top 8, they're going to get 16 points, and they will bounce into the 4th place spot for North America at Worlds. So there is a path to the World Championship for the Young Guns. They have got to bring it. It's now or never. Top 4, and the story continues. I'm hoping for Snowmen to do something magical.
Yeah. I mean, they have some of the insane highs to make
Sure.
it happen. This is requiring a lot of consistency with those high level performances, which I'm not saying they can't do it. They can. But it's gonna be tricky. Very tricky.
Well, that inconsistency has caused the problem where now they just have one chance. They've got one chance. You know, they missed out on an event early in the year.
But that's saying something. That it has to come down to that one chance. That already kind of tells you the story of a team like this. But hey, it's an outside chance. They have to go for it, right?
Of course.
Sometimes it becomes a little bit easier when you know that it's now or never.
Well, and I would say it's also in their mind probably not too crazy because they've already done it once this split. They went top 4 in the first event, so they know that they can do it. They've already achieved it once here in the second split.
So some experience from that. They learned a little bit from how that feels, how it is to play in those scenarios.
Yep.
Because playing in scrims versus playing in officials is obviously very different, but it's also playing in double elimination before the top 16, or actually playing in a playoff bracket. It's a world of difference for those players.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a difference in different stages or different events and different feelings, we've got to talk about M80.
Oh, we do.
They go 3-0 through the Swiss stage. They beat Cloud9, who ended up top 4 in the event, in Game 5. They beat G2 in Game 5, who obviously ended up being the champions. And then they swept Gen G 3-0. They had a phenomenal Swiss stage, and I felt, finally, it's here. The team that I know they can be is going to show up. They've been top 8. They've shown the consistency. They have a high floor, but the ceiling has been low. And what do?
Joreuz is not beating those Swiss stage
merchants. Oh, my goodness.
Allegations. It's actually crazy.
I have said through different scenarios, different situations, like, I don't understand. I don't know why this team's not performing well. I don't understand why this team's performing so well. There's been confusing stuff, but I always feel like there is like I'm being dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I don't understand. I really don't understand with this team. There's an unbelievable amount of talent on this team. There's experience with AJ and Joriez. Nick is the coach there. He's got plenty of experience. Nass has maybe not had a ton in RLCS. I mean, I would say he does at this point. They've made 5
Yeah,
events straight.
experience should never be the issue with a team like this. We've had Nick
Yeah,
on the show to talk about his team and about
right.
how boot camping works and everything. And experience is not the problem. Maybe the approach is. Nick has gone a very unconventional route compared to how other Rocket League teams form, and especially signed to an organization. Those teams are coming from the same kind of roots that we see bubble teams play at. They just stick together a little bit longer
Yeah,
uh, to actually be earning a salary on the organizations. But you still have 3 players that kind of either they come up together or they've been playing ranked for years or whatever it is. It's kind of a friendship league in a way, not as a negative term. It's just that's how it works, where players know each other, know how each other play, and aren't really having to rely on tryouts and tryout scrims to see who their teammates will be for the next season, because usually they've already have a pretty good idea who they want to play with, or they know like this player is becoming available, let's get him. That's not how M80 are formed.
right.
That's not how they have played. It's not how the entire organization has approached the Rocket League roster. They are coming from everywhere. I mean, we've heard Nick say that they've tried out everyone. They've tried out Mota. They've tried out
Mhm.
Joyo, even on the same team, which is crazy. But it's an approach that's unconventional and maybe for good reason,
Yeah,
because it's not really working.
it hasn't. It definitely has not.
I think it's time to call it. I think it's time to say that it's not really working, because for weeks and weeks we've been kind of on the edge of calling M80 a contender or not, because with this format, with these points, it's always possible to get back in there and become, part of the conversation of making it to a major. But they're not really showing up when they have to. So I think it's time to stop talking about them as contenders.
Well, very similar to what I said about power, but unfortunately, in the other direction, I've held on hope
Yeah,
and continued to believe. But as you
that's what I
said,
mean.
it's kind of time. Like the ship has sailed, and so have their opportunities. I mean, if they want to make something happen, is they have one final event to do so. So
Yeah. I mean, they're
speaking,
only 4 points behind the top 4
yeah,
at the moment. So it's not like it's impossible. It's just the way they play, it just doesn't seem like they're going to beat enough teams to make that
right,
happen.
certainly not in the playoff bracket.
That's that's the important part.
Well, another team that is behind is LG. Unfortunately, they have not made top 8 in split number 2 after qualifying to the major and having a decent showing. I think showing their potential, their strength against Vitality there in that round 5 loss. But now with these couple of poor performances back to back, it really looks like they're not going to make major 2, and unfortunately, they won't be making worlds either. Did NA get better, or did LG fall behind?
Like usually, it's probably a little bit of both, but I think even the pro players who've played them and scrimmed them so many times have been underestimated teams like Cloud9, like Snowman,
Yeah,
and they get away with it because Luminosity had to beat Cloud9 in round 5 of Swiss to actually make it to the playoff brackets, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't get more than a game.
yeah.
These newer teams are getting underestimated time and time again. So yes, NA has gotten a little bit better, but also it's just a sign of what we've been saying about North America all along. It is two teams up
Yeah,
there,
that's
although
right.
Genji is not really making case for it. And then so many teams fighting for the same two spots.
That's right. That's
And
exactly how I feel
LG
about it.
are just one of them.
Yeah,
Just one team in the
that's right.
sea of potential, because there's so much potential in these teams. And maybe LG doesn't have as much potential as other teams. Maybe I think I can say that. Yes, they've made it happen, made it their way to Copenhagen to be in that top 4 in NA last split. But there are other teams with maybe higher highs, with a little bit of a better consistency in
Yeah.
beating teams like Luminosity Gaming. That's how I
NA,
feel about it.
one final event left. So much riding on it as well for all of these teams. Maybe not all of them, but a good 6 to 8 of them. Their entire season will rest on this performance. I mean, this is going to be paramount pressure. It is going to be so much fun to watch as a fan.
I feel like
You do
such a
not-
hater today. I mean, hating it, but I'm not hating on MAT and LG. They just have to show it. But
They got to
if
show
they
it. That's
show
right.
it,
No,
I'm right back on
you
it.
haven't said any hate. I don't think you've said anything wrong at all. I totally agree. I mean, LG, they are just another, and that's not disrespectful. They are another one of those 7 squads that's right there. You know, it could have been TSM last split. It could have been Cloud9. It could have been, it probably wouldn't have been Snowman, but it could have been an M80. It could have been a space station. It could have been any of them.
Definitely.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with what we said. And I think those teams know that. M80 know that they've got to get through that freaking quarterfinal. They cannot continue to sit there and get top 8s and expect to be labeled contenders. LG knows that they can't fall out of round 5 Swiss and be taken serious as they may like to be by all of us yapping heads. So I think it's totally fair. Nothing wrong there. But like I said, one final event. It's now or never. And they've got to make it happen.
All coming down to this.
It's all coming down to this. Well, let's look at Sam.
Sam.
What a crazy open qualifier number 5. Jens, there was one specific game that was probably top 5, like most wild series maybe ever in RLCS. You know, I think a lot of us will obviously think about the NRG Dig series, which obviously went crazy back and forth in season 5. Yeah. I think the who was it? It was Vitality versus Dig. Season 8?
Yes.
It's like a quarterfinal or semifinal?
That was a semifinal, I believe.
Was it a semifinal? Another insane series
Madrid,
back and forth, lengthy overtimes. And then, of course, you think about Furia Moist a couple years ago at Worlds. And this right here had it all. It had a pogo. It had a pogo shot. It had 2 goals scored in the final 13 seconds to tie things up. I mean, it was just absolutely bananas. And Ninjas stave off defeat in the quarterfinals versus Complexity after falling down 3-2. How could it be 4-2? The series be over. 3-2 down to Complexity. And they march back and they get the victory. And then they continue rolling and they take down Furia, the giants of the region. Furia has just had their thumb on everyone, the entire region. And it seems as though no one, except for Complexity in that very first event of the season, has been able to topple the giants. But they fell, and they actually they fell twice to Ninjas. They lost to them in Swiss and then lost to them in the finals.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big story as well is just that Furia aren't the clear, they're not the Falcons anymore.
Right.
Because we've been comparing those two regions so much, Mina and Sam, because you have one team that's really established at the top.
Yeah.
And maybe something changed there.
Well, I want to mention too, there's another team that we just haven't, we haven't, and I'm sure a lot of people that, kind of keep up from afar haven't seen. Hero Base. They've been consistent top 8. Maybe it's popped into top 4 once or twice. Let me see.
Hero
But
Base has
they,
been a team that people would have, I would have said, had more potential at the start of the season.
sure.
At the start of the season, they came in as contenders, and even for maybe getting close to a land spot. I haven't seen anything like that from them, but they have been one of the teams that make South America such an interesting region to watch.
Right. Well, what I was going to say is they ended up taking Furia to 7 in the quarterfinals, and Game 7 actually went to overtime. So Furia being tested, kind of what you were alluding to there. It's no longer just the Furia show, complete dominance over everyone. We've got teams that we're not even talking about as far as making the major, taking them to Game 7. We've got them falling in Swiss to Ninjas, losing in the grand finals as well. But I think the really interesting and I guess stressful, depending on what your perspective is, story is Complexity,
Yeah,
who everyone thought would be that second place team to Furia, may not make London and they may
yeah,
not make Worlds.
yeah. That's really tough. Um, I mean, it's just Ninjas and Pajamas have just been storming through that bracket, and it's not a Mickey bracket if you have to beat Complexity, Team
Right.
Secret, and then Furia in the finals. If there was a trophy for Team of the Week, Ninjas and Pajamas would take it, no question.
Yeah.
Complexity, yeah. I mean, they got handed to them in Game 7, yes, but still. And they're now struggling, basically, right?
Hmm.
It depends on major performance as
Right.
well, what they can do, what will happen at Worlds, right? But I mean, they haven't shown up
They really
so much
they
in.
they desperately need a really good performance in this third regional
Yeah,
to
yeah,
keep themselves alive. And of course they can. If they win the event, then they'll probably clinch themselves the spot at London. So it's not out of they're definitely not out of the race, but they have backed themselves into a corner. And the question here is we see Complexity with Diaz, the addition of Diaz in the middle of the season, struggling a bit. We see Dignitas over here at NA, and obviously they're struggling a bit. Do we think that that is like a midseason roster move thing, or do we think that that's more of just the strength of Sam?
um I think it's more a roster change
Okay,
where it's about the potential more than the results.
sure.
And the potential with a player like Diaz is still there, um, but you need to play better in officials, right? Because I can imagine scrims are going pretty high. I have no idea about their scrims, but I can just imagine that a team like Complexity with Diaz will scrim other South American teams and do really well. But if they as a trio cannot convert that, then that's just a thing about a roster move that hasn't worked out the way they wanted it. That's how I
Yeah,
feel about that.
yeah, definitely hasn't. And similar to what I said about NA, they've got one final chance here. And I cannot say this enough. This final event for all these every region is just going to be so incredibly intense
Yeah.
because there are going to be a lot of teams that have their fate sealed in that final event. So it's going to be super
As
exciting.
well,
Make sure
also
you
for Worlds, because I can
yeah,
imagine that these teams, even though they need to be just looking ahead and playing the game that's in front of them, they're going to be thinking about how the rest of the year is going to
yeah,
go. And
absolutely.
Complexity just missed out on going to the top 8 at Copenhagen. So if they don't make London and another team gets a little further than them, I mean, they're just out.
Yep.
They want to control their own destiny. They want to make it to this major, but yeah, it's going to be tough.
It is going to be tough. Well, Mina has continued to remain consistent. We've got Falcons staying on top. They are 5 of 5 with regional victories, but I guess a little passing of the torch there for Mina 2 seed. X
Yes.
Rule 1, who now goes by the name of Anything. I'm just
Actually, I
going to
think they're playing the rest of the split as Rule 1 still. Are they not?
I don't think
They
so.
do go by anything, but I think they changed back to Rule 1 for the next. Am I mistaken?
I would I would be very surprised if Rule 1 allowed
I
them to
heard
do
something
that.
about that.
But we'll just say X Rule 1, the
Yeah.
Nupo team with Venom and actually Misho. They're playing with
Yes.
their sub now.
Yeah.
Khaled
Khaled
is
has
taking.
been. Well, he's not the sub anymore. They actually changed it around now. Mesho is
Yeah.
now part of the main roster, and Khaled is on the bench.
Yeah. So Khaled's taking a back seat. But there's been a swap. Twisted
Yes.
Minds, with the addition of Ahmad, has now solidified themselves as that consistent 2 seed or second place to Falcons. 2 events straight. They've gotten to the grand finals. Unfortunately, they have not been able, excuse me, to knock Falcons off, but they have given them a run for their money. I know the first event was a 4-3 series scoreline. It won in which Falcons won in the very final moments of Game 7. I think it was the final 10 seconds, actually. And this series, this most recent event was a 4-2 scoreline. So Twisted Minds, certainly not a team to overlook, whether it's in MENA or internationally. I think those guys are probably going to be a little bit more successful than Rule 1
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
in
I mean,
Split 1.
we've talked about who the best third team in the region is, because we've kind of had Falcons and Rule 1 as number 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Now it kind of looks like Twisted Minds might be the second best team in the
Right.
region, and not just because of them making grand finals over them. They actually look the part.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
Ahmad might be the smartest player in the entire team of
know.
RLCS. He
I
just
know.
leaves Rule 1,
What a guy.
joins Twisted Minds, and just does it. Just gets up there.
So incredible. Success follows the man. We'll see if Twisted Minds can lock in that 2 seed. I'm not too concerned about Falcons. I'm sure that whether they win this final regional or not, they will be at London and Worlds. They have a huge lead on the pack. And so really it's just between Twisted Minds and can they hold off the other remaining teams, R8,
Yeah, R8,
X Rule 1.
X Rule 1, and
And they're, the thing is,
yes,
they
Team
for
Rock.
this split, they are hot on the heels. You got Twisted Minds at 32 points. R8 and anything are at 24 and 20 points. And Team Rock is at 20 points as well. So Twisted Minds actually has, I was just thinking, they built a decent little lead there as long
Yeah,
as
they do.
I would say, top 4, and they probably got it totally locked up no matter what.
I'm not sure about that, but
So
yeah, they do have a decent lead.
So they have an 8
Um,
point, they have an 8-point lead right now. And I think at top 4, they would at least secure, yeah. So if they go top 4, they'll have 12 points. And then, like, if R8 was to win the event, R8 would get 20, so they would secure a tiebreaker. I cannot think of the word.
Well, what's also really interesting is that if you look at the entire season, Twisted Minds are only 6 points behind X Rule 1. So
So they're definitely going to jump them.
They can even overtake them in the next regional. Of
Yeah.
course, major points
Yeah.
really come into question there. So if you make it to London, you've basically won the race.
Right.
But it's very, very possible that we will not see Nupo and compatriots at Dallas, Fort Worth.
The final stretch of the season is definitely shaping up to be an exciting one. Let's go to our one final region that we want to talk about, SSA. Limitless. They do find their way back to the final, but unfortunately fall to the full Spanish roster of Team Mobula. We do, however, have 2 SSA teams make Championship Sunday after 0 made top 4 in the previous event. So that is exciting to see.
Yeah, it doesn't look as bad, does it?
Right.
It looks a little bit more enjoyable to watch, to play, to look at, but
To digest. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, to just get it played out like that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better. I know there's some optimism still,
Sure.
Lots of things need to happen in the region. Definitely listen back to last time if you want to hear us talk more about Sub-Saharan Africa. I don't think we need to regurgitate everything we've been saying about the format, about the rules, about how teams can improve and what they need to do to support the region and each other and everything. we've seen calls for a 2/3 rule from the season. So
Mhm.
you know, you have at least one or two players from the region, living in the region, playing there to actually improve the talent from the region itself. I mean, it's good to see Limitless back, I guess,
Yeah.
because they're still going to be the team to watch if you're actually looking at the talent from the region itself. Um, Nixa, good to have them, but they didn't. Did they make it? No, they didn't make it to the playoff brackets.
Well,
Uh,
there is a bright side. Team
yes.
Nobula will most likely secure another victory in the final regional, and they will most likely be representing SSA for the major. But Limitless has built such a large lead in the first split that even with Team Mobula winning all 3 events in the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
split and going to major, they almost certainly are not going to jump Limitless. Team Mobula would have to go top 8 at the major to grab the SSA spot, and that's not happening. So Limitless should be
Lock it
at the World Championship unless absolute hell breaks loose.
in.
So that is something that we can, for this season, and with the situation going on, we can at least rest easy that there will be, uh, a true representative for SSA at the World Championship.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some nice orgs there. Nixa coming, 9 Lies. You have Nix. What else? Team Mobile, I guess, but you know, it's a different team. And we have some exciting new talents that are still interesting to watch, no matter what they do, whether they get to the playoff brackets or not. You have Tasho on Bird. But yeah, it's not as doom and gloom
Right.
as last Open Qualifier.
I know. Whew. That
At
was
the
rough.
same time, it's not like it looks like any of the advice or, you know, hints or things people have said towards the European players have actually amounted to much. They're still doing their own thing, which
Right.
fair play to them.
Sure.
But things need to
It's gonna be
change much
tough.
more drastically for SSA to actually improve the way they would
Right.
like to.
It's gonna be tough to convince a teenager
Yeah,
to
of course.
take on the responsibility of growing, you know,
Yeah, becoming a mentor.
underdeveloped players,
Yeah,
and all the while they know in their
obviously.
mind they could just grab a couple of their EU bubble buddies and go and do just what VK Salen has done and find, almost perfect success across the board. So
Yeah, I
but I
saw.
think we have seen, whether it's qualifier, auto qual bids, etc. The lack of restrictions as far as where players can and cannot play for RLCS. I think there's been a lot of discussion about it, and I am just going to be optimistic that Psyonix and Blast and Epic are hearing that. I hope that they value the feedback. I think they have given us reason to believe that they will do that. I mean, they have made some adjustments mid-season, what
Yeah,
they can. Obviously, some of these rules are things that you can't tinker with after the season begins. You can't walk back some of these things, but they have listened. I think they are improving as far as the communication. I think they are doing the best job that they can, and hopefully, when this season concludes, they will make some of the proper adjustments to take
yeah,
care of the scene.
and it feels like at least the South African, the Sub-Saharan African teams haven't lost faith or
Right?
they haven't lost the morale.
Yeah,
They're still trying. You know,
that's right.
I saw a tweet come by from Spooks, Dutch coach of 9 Lies, which is a complete South African team with guns, scams, and snoozy, and they were willing to scrim
I saw that.
European teams on European ping,
Yeah,
so they don't have to worry about any of that, just to get better.
yeah,
Right? It's not gonna help them improve enough for this season, but maybe the couple of percentages that they can do,
yeah.
they will try to do. So that's
Something.
it's something.
Well, I mean, it indicates, like you said, that they're still hungry. They still want to try to improve. They're still chasing. They're still chasing the dream, and that's the
Mhm.
important part here. So that's going to conclude the The regional recap, NA, South America, MENA, and SSA. As we said, it was wild this whole weekend, whether it was the open quals over in Europe or the results with Ninjas dropping Furia finally, Gen.G out in quarterfinals. The race in North America is on for that final spot or two in London. Make sure that you tune in for these next next 3 weeks, I guess is what it is. Next 3 weeks of Rocket League is going to be so intense. There's so much on the line.
No,
And
absolutely.
these players are what's probably going to happen is we're probably going to get some pretty bad Rocket League because as the intensity and
might
the pressure
happen.
goes up,
It
the
might
mistakes
happen.
seem to
Yeah.
mistakes seem to follow.
Yeah, but the same happens on LAN. Players are just out of their
Yeah,
comfort zone
that's right.
and they play worse,
Yeah,
but it's
sometimes.
still entertaining as hell.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're going to conclude the episode here with speed taking. Obviously, just 2 of us here, so we're going to take 3 each, and I'll just throw it over to you.
Go.
Toss me one, and we'll give
Right.
our take on what your takes are.
What to pick? What to pick? Ooh, this one for you. Let's start
Okay.
off with something that's made for you. From Julian, who says the Friday night duels 1v1 show matches should return at Worlds this season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll say this, we don't have to stop there.
Yeah.
Any type of content that's not specifically the 3v3 matches at Worlds, yes, let's do it. I mean, you think about like NBA, they've got like their All-Star weekend. They've got their little exhibition match. They've got a dunk contest, a three-point contest. And we don't have to mimic those exact things, but just ways to entertain and celebrate the awesome moment that is the World Championship. And the more content, in my opinion, the better. Look, I know a lot of people didn't like the freestyle thing, and that's fair, but I commend them for trying something.
Yes.
We learned, right? We learned, hey, that's not really a good thing to that's not really a good scenario to put the freestylers in, right? It's not their fault. But the thing that they do is repetition. They try it over and over and over until they get it, right? So it's not a good fit to go onto a live environment. It's tough. But there are other things that they could do. And the 1v1 show matches, I think, were a phenomenal choice. That was such a hit. Obviously, I love the 1v1 stuff, but I think that is something that a lot of people love. You know, how many times have we heard for, calls for the 1v1 circuit? I think Johnny's different 1v1 events always go very well. So I'm all for.
As long as we don't have lands for 1v1, let's incorporate it
That's
into
right.
Worlds, right?
That's right. Throw it at Worlds. That's right.
Yeah.
And
I love show matches as well.
Who doesn't love the international matchups that we never get? We never get Daniel versus Rawas, right? Because they're the ping. We never get Diaz versus Rawas. Let's get those at Worlds.
Yes. Yeah. I love show matches. I know the way RLCS and Rocket League games with best of sevens are structured, it's difficult to fit a show match into Championship Sunday. Because if you have like just a best of 3 Counter-Strike finals to play on that Sunday, right? That's going to take like 2 hours or so.
Right.
Then you have time for a show match as well with just wacky rules or weird teams, or you can bring back a lineup of retired players.
Yes.
Things like that is lovely to watch.
Maybe some
Everyone's
coaches or something.
engaged. Yeah, just get the coaches to play each other to decide who's a better coach. Just 1v1.
We'll flip the roles.
Whatever. Yeah. And then of course the players need to coach.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a given. Things like that is so entertaining, and
Agreed.
the LAN environment really leans itself for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hit me.
All right. So, Julian, thank you for that one. All right, we'll just throw you this one from Mop. He says, anything less than a top 4 at London would be a disappointment for Team Falcons.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Because they have shown they can do it internationally, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you just saw the region, if you just have MENA going up against the other region, making that playoff brackets is nothing to be ashamed of. But because Falcons specifically have such prowess on LAN and are so good at beating other regions with their style, top 4 is what they should aim for and nothing less. That's I
think I'm with you. I mean, especially with how strong they showed they were in that quarterfinal match with Karmine Corp. You know, a lot of people even still are rating them in that top 4 area. So I'm with you. I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Talking about coaches,
Mm,
Here's a take from Pyro.
okay.
Chrome has not helped Gen G's ceiling and has made them more inconsistent since he's signed on to coach. See the problem?
Yeah, you could say that. That's fine. I think we're looking at a very, very small sample size. The immediate result, it to me is not. I mean, first, we don't really know how much a coach will change things.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Because we don't know exactly what the coaches do,
Yeah, but
and it's so
I'm
individually
also
as well.
I'm not too surprised by introducing something new to a team environment and then getting a little bit of a different result. The first thing they did was win. They won the event. So, the immediate reaction is like, well, Chrome's the greatest. And then they fall out top 8. And so now we say, well, Chrome's the worst, right? So, yeah, we could say that. Yeah, they've been a little bit more inconsistent, but I'm not too surprised by that. You introduce something new to the team. We just talked about it with Diaz and Complexity. We talked about it with Dig and Stizzy, and then they bench Evo. When you introduce something new to it, it's going to break up that rhythm, break up that routine, change up the dynamic a little bit socially, and they got to get used to it. So I'm not too worried about Gen G. I think their floor is plenty high. I do think that was a tough loss to OG in the top 8. But look, you're not going to be perfect throughout the season. You're going to have some tough losses here and there. We've seen Karmine Corp miss the main event, so I'm not too worried about it.
All right.
From Langley, Arsenal and Reddles will team again before they retire.
I don't see it happening. It would be the caster's dream, wouldn't it?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
The analysts, it's just it's a good storyline, but that's about it. They have had a tough time when they were teaming, especially at the end of that World Championship. There was so much drama going on. It's also not really two players who I see fit on a team at the moment.
Right.
They might not just be cut out for that. Also, they're two players who, yes, came up together and have a lot of history, but now that they are the veterans and not the rookies anymore, they both are willing to take new talent under their wings
Mm-hmm.
and give them their experience and try to reach the top with younger, newer
Right.
talent with a lot of potential. And I don't think they see that in each other. So, nah, that's not happening in my book.
Maybe a content run once they fully wind down, but
Yeah, but that's different. But
that's
who
different.
knows?
That's
Who
right.
knows? Let's bring back the peeps. Well, okay. So, from Vesper,
Okay.
KC's elimination in open qualifiers is the most shocking result of the open era. It's testing your history knowledge.
It is.
Yeah,
It's hard to
mine too.
quantify this, but I'm going to say no. Although it is a huge swing and a miss. The thing that stands out the most to me
Yeah.
is BDS losing to Vitality in RLCS X.
Oh.
And I know that Vitality was good as well.
Yeah.
But BDS was just so incredibly dominant. They were so, accepted by the community at large, casters, very knowledgeable people, very casual fans, players alike. Everyone. It was just BDS season.
Yeah.
It was theirs to win, to take, to celebrate. They dominated that region. I remember the debates. Everybody was saying that Europe is totally washed because of how dominant that one team was.
Yeah.
And so I think that for me, and like I said, I know that Vitality was still a good squad, but I think that was just absolutely befuddling.
I
I
like
could
that.
not
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah. That was just not happening, and then it did.
No.
Yeah.
Now this is obviously like that. That's different in the sense that that's a championship. Both of those teams probably should have been there. And then obviously that is an upset. And this is rough from KC. This is a tough loss here. But yeah, anyways, that was a shocker for me. So that's gonna be my choice.
I think it's more just how the format is structured right now
Sure.
that it makes it bigger
Yes.
with KC.
Right.
But the
Like
actual loss to Top Cougars and to Suh,
if they
isn't
go,
the most insane thing ever.
if they start a Swiss stage 0-2 to those two, and then they win their next
Yeah.
3 and they're in the main event, we forget
Yeah.
about it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never think about it
Exactly.
again. So,
Yeah.
all right. Let's see. Let me throw you this one from Icarus. G2 are the most consistently elite team in the world.
Oh, I think we would have loved to throw that one to Michael. Oh, that would have been good content.
Uh,
Um, the most no, because you have
Ooh.
Falcons.
Ooh,
They are
okay.
an elite team.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can say they're not, and they are very, very consistent. Because yes, the competition within Middle East is not at the same level as we see in North America. No way. But you still have to win your matches.
Yeah.
You still have to do it every week. And that's what Team Falcons do. So
Mm.
right now it's Team Falcons.
Now, I don't want to go so far as to say I'm going to rebuttal, but I do want to throw this out there. G2 has not finished lower than second in RLCS event all season.
I mean, there's a reason why this is a take. They have absolutely a reason to be in that discussion. I'm just gonna be a contrarian and throw out a region a little bit closer to home.
I hear you. Okay. We'll see what the comments say about that. Yin's a hater.
Tweet at me. It's right there.
Tweet at him. Let him know. Garbage take.
I might even reply. Who knows?
Ooh. All right. So is that all? That's all of our takes. Shout out to Icarus, Vesper, Langley, Pyro, Julian, and Mop. If you want to give a take and you want to hear what we have to say about it, join the Shift Cord. There will be a link below in the description on the YouTube page. Is there a link on Spotify somewhere?
On
I don't know if there's
Spotify, I'm not sure. I wrote the description and I already forgot. No, I don't think so. But it's also shiftrle.gg.
You can also just go to Google and type Shift RLE, and it will probably take you to the website, and you can join. You can join the Discord there. You can check out
/shiftrle. Everything works.
Everything works. You can join the Discord from there. You can check out the content on the page. There's a statistics section of the website. They've got, the next up players to keep your eyes on. So check out all things at Shift RLE. Of course, drop the Twitter a follow if you're not already doing so.
And if you're a really big fan of all the leaks,
we've rolled through it all.
Yeah, and if you're a really big fan of all the leaks from Shift, I post them first to the article hub on ShiftCord before they go on Reddit and Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Not by much, but if you want to have the scoops
early
as
drop,
soon
early
as
access,
possible, that's where you get the early access.
Incredible. All right, well, y'all go check those links out in the description below on YouTube, or as I said, if you're watching on Spotify, give it a Google, shiftrle.gg. Thank you all for watching another episode of ShiftCast, and we'll catch you next time.
See you next week.